Alright, good day everyone. So today we're gonna do another unboxing video. And this time it's gonna be the Hiya Toys Godzilla vs. Kong, the Stylist series from the movie Godzilla vs. Kong. But before we begin, I'd like to invite everyone to please subscribe to the channel and hit on the notification bell to get the latest updates from the hobbyist. So yeah, let's begin. So Hiya Toys, if you are pretty active in the Godzilla community, you must have heard that there is this new brand that is making quite a buzz in the community, and that's Hiya Toys. So Hiya Toys is a Chinese brand, if I'm not mistaken, and they are technically not licensed. If I remember correctly, they're technically not licensed, so you could probably call these figures bootleg figures, right? But the thing is, they really amped up their marketing, so to speak, and they had some promotional pictures of the figures that they were gonna release, and it took the internet by storm. So they had this series, so they first released the Stylist series, and this is basically the non-articulated figures from Hiya Toys. There is another series of figures, which is the Exquisite series. So those are gonna be articulated. So the thing is, what's attractive about these toys is that it's really a fraction of the cost of the Japanese brands. So SH Monster Arts costs like 3 or 4 times as much as the figures that Hiya Toys are going to offer. And for the Stylist series, which are non-articulated, they are basically targeting the people who collect X Plus figures or Deferil figures. So yeah, so it's quite exciting, and since this is the first release of Hiya Toys on the Godzilla line, so I'm really excited to do this review. So anyway, this is what the box looks like. So as you can see here, the front of the box, you can see pictures of Godzilla and Kong. That's the actual figure that we're gonna see later on. On the side of the box, you will also see another pose of the figure and a close-up of Kong. And then at the back, at least on the other side, yeah, another pose for Kong, Godzilla, almost the same picture. Now at the back, you have some contact information about Hiya Toys, branding information. Then you have some other poses for Godzilla here. Now, so that's basically what the box looks like. So what we're gonna do next is we are going to open up these boxes and see what the figures look like. Okay, so out of the box, this is what we have. So for the Godzilla figure, so we have the Godzilla figure, and then it comes with the tail detached. And then for Kong, we have the Kong figure right here, and then it comes with a stand, so to speak, allowing Kong to fly towards Godzilla. So you know what's gonna go down, right? Anyway, so what we're gonna do next is we are going to look at each figure and see what they look like. Okay, so starting off with Godzilla right here. So as I mentioned earlier, the tail comes detached. So at the end of the tail, there is this groove right here, and it lines up perfectly with the groove on the top of the other end of the tail. So all you need to do is just line them up, and then insert the tail onto the rest of the tail, and basically you have the complete figure. So yeah, so out of the box, what I would say is the sculpt is really amazing. As you can see here, the details are incredible. I like everything that they've done here in terms of sculpt. I like the head sculpt of Godzilla is pretty much accurate to what it looks like in the movie. The build, the heftiness of the MonsterVerse Godzilla, it's there. I like how they sculpted the neck. You could really discern the gills of Godzilla on both ends. I also like how they did the dorsal plates here. As you can see, the dorsal plates are sculpted really well. Although, yeah, so one thing that I'd like to note is when you look at where it's attached to the body, you would see that the dorsal plates are kind of like a different scope. So it's not really one scope, and it was basically glued there. So that's one minute detail that I see in this figure. And then in terms of paint application, I like how they painted the figure. I mean, I like how they painted the face. I mean, the face looks awesome. Looks like legendary Goji. Now, I also like how they painted the mouth. The mouth is basically, there is some weathering even on the tongue area, so it's not particularly clean. I like how they sculpted the teeth as well. I haven't mentioned that earlier. And how they painted it, so it's not too clean, not too dirty, it's just right. The nails, well, it could use a bit of a better paint job, at least the nails on the foot. I think that's hastily painted, as you can see here. Yeah, so I think they could do a better job at painting it. But for the rest of the body, like the scales, it really pops out because of the dry brushing. Although one thing that I should note, I should tell you guys, is I feel like the paint is a little bit too shiny for my liking. But other than that, it's an awesome figure. You know, the paint is awesome overall. The sculpt is superb, if you ask me, especially for the price. Okay, so now, what do I don't like about the figure? Well, since this is basically my first time reviewing a non-articulated figure, I'm kind of taken aback because I was expecting that this is gonna be like one sculpt, or at least like two sculpts, and most of the joint lines would be hidden. In this figure, it doesn't seem like that's the case. So if right out of the bat, I mean, I could notice that there are some joint marks on the lower jaw. There's another one on the elbow, and then there is another one, on the shoulder, and then there's another one on the thigh, and another one on the chest area, and another one on the knee. So all of these joint marks you could really see, especially if you're looking at it at this close. Probably if you're looking at it this far, you won't see much of it. But if it's displayed on your case and somebody's gonna look at it, then they're definitely gonna see those marks. Anyway, also of course the one that I mentioned earlier, the dorsal plates, they're kind of like, just attached to the figure. So it's not really sculpted as one whole. So it's kind of a bummer because, I mean, for me, that's really the reason why you're getting a non-articulated figure, because you're expecting that it's one fluidly sculpted figure, which doesn't have all of those joint marks. But anyway, it is what it is. For the price, I mean, this thing costs like $40. So, I mean, if you compare that to X Plus that cost 3 or 4 times that amount, still a steal. But anyway, that's what Godzilla looks like. So now we're gonna move on to Kong. So Kong, as I mentioned earlier, comes with a stand. So the stand basically just connects like so. So it's really an easy connection. Now Kong, this is what Kong looks like. So Kong, I love how they sculpted the face. I love how they sculpted the fur of Kong. It's really nice. The body, there is some texture going on the body, which is, you know, really nice. Some folds on the chest, something that you would expect on something very natural. And then I like how they sculpted the foot, the the digits on the fingers, all of those creases on the skin of Kong, if you will. It's there. It's really nice. Now, let's move on and look at the axe. So the axe, again, the sculpt is sculpted. I mean, the axe was sculpted really well. The wraps on the blade, superbly done. There's even some, you know, some texture going on the wraps, reminiscent of animal skin, which is incredible, really. And then the dorsal plate that's attached to the axe, it's also sculpted really well. Not too thick, not too thin. It's just right. And in fact, if I look at Godzilla right here, it actually lines up. Like, the size of the dorsal plate is kind of similar to the dorsal plates of Godzilla. So in terms of scale, it scales perfectly as well. Now, in terms of paint application, I like how they painted this figure, especially the chest. Now, my only gripe, again, just like what I mentioned with Godzilla, I feel like it's kind of shiny to my liking. I know it's probably because of Mod Podge or something that they used to finalize the paint, but I feel like they could do a better job, especially since this is manufactured already. Now, other than that, also, well, another thing that I want to point out, I feel like the Kong could use some more beard. It's just me. I mean, I feel like it could be a bit bushier, if you will. It could use some more beard. But anyway, other than that, again, as what I've pointed out with Godzilla, a lot of the joint lines you could still see. So on the elbows of Kong, you could still see the joint lines, on the shoulders as well, and on the thighs, so you could see the joint marks. And on the knee area, you could also see the joint marks. Actually, when I first got this and I saw those lines, I was kind of confused, because I thought I could really move those joints because those joint marks are there. But anyway, when I got it and when we played around with it, that's when I realized, so maybe they were just using the same molds as their action figures. The same 3D models probably, but it's scaled bigger. And then they use those 3D model, the scaled 3D models to make bigger versions, and then made these figures. So yeah, so that's something that's really a bummer. It's not really a deal breaker. They are, don't get me wrong, they really look well. They really look good. But I'm just, it's kind of like a bummer for me to see all of those joint marks. But anyway, it is what it is. So what we're gonna show you is how to connect the stand. So basically, there is a peg, again, just like Godzilla earlier. There is this groove on the bottom now of the peg, and it lines up with the groove on Kong's lower back. Now, it's not really a straight up insertion, so what you need to do is to angle it ever so slightly so that it will fit, because the hole is actually angled. So that's how you put it in. So it's kind of angled this way, and then all you need to do is just to insert it like so. So do take note, you have to go in between Kong's legs to reach that hole over there. So anyway, now that that's there, all you need to do is just to plug it in onto the base. I feel like it's an easier way to insert it compared to like inserting the peg onto the base first. So yeah, so that's what it looks like. Okay, so this is how the Hiya Toys Godzilla stack up against its co-star, the Hiya Toys Kong. So as you can see, they complement each other really well. And in terms of size, Godzilla stands at around 7.5, 8 inches tall. And then Kong stands at around 7 inches tall. So really a small difference in terms of height. But in terms of size, like overall size, you can see that just like in the movie, Godzilla is much bigger than Kong. But if you look at it, at least on this pose, Kong can really bring it bring it on with Godzilla. So anyway, it really captures the iconic scene in the movie, and I like what Hiya Toys did here. And overall, these are really good figures, especially for the price. Again, so these figures cost around $40, $45. And if you are gonna get like the Japanese X Plus counterparts of these figures, you're gonna expect to pay like 3 or 4 times that amount. So for the price, especially if you're starting off your own non-articulated Godzilla collection and you want to make a feel if these figures are for you or not, then I suggest you get one of these right out of the bat. They really look nice. I mean, of course, you could nitpick it and say that there are some flaws to it, like especially the seam lines if you're like me. And you're right. I mean, you're better off if that's your expectation, then by all means, you should be looking at the more expensive figures like the X Plus figures. But if you just want a Godzilla versus Kong figure that looks good on your shelf, by the way, 7.5, 8 inches for me is like the perfect scale if you want to put this like on your living room and you don't want it to take that much space, but still pull off like an awesome scene like this, then by all means, these are the figures for you. Also, if you are like us and you love customizing your figures, and for me, I think given that Kong's axe is already glowing blue, I feel like Godzilla should have like a bluer effect. The eye should be bluer, the tongue should be blue, and it's gonna be ready to fire its atomic breath. You could do that, and you could put some lights on the dorsal plates, and you're not really gonna feel bad messing up like an expensive figure like an X Plus, because this costs like a fraction of what an X Plus costs. So all of those possibilities are within your reach, and Hiya Toys made that possible. So, and again, if you're customizing figures and you want to hide all of those seam lines, all of those joint lines, then you could do that. So yeah, so there is really a good place for this collection, and I wish that Hiya Toys would release more Godzilla figures. I mean, they could release King Ghidorah, they could release Mechagodzilla, it's still there. Mothra and Rodan is also available, and of course all of the other Japanese Godzilla characters. So yeah, the possibilities are basically endless. So yeah. Okay, so at this point you should be seeing the shoutouts on today's video. If you want to be included on the next roll call, all you need to do is drop us a comment down below, show us some love, subscribe to the channel. So what do you think about Hiya Toys? Are you excited for action figures? I know I am. I hope they continue on whatever they're doing. They're doing great. So yeah, by the way, you could also check our social media platforms, The Hobbyist, or our Instagram account, the_hobbyist. You could also join our membership, guys. So if you want to support our channel more, you could also support our channel by being a member of the channel. There are some cool perks waiting for you guys through the membership. So yeah, again guys, thank you for watching this video. Thank you for supporting our channel, and I will see you guys soon. Peace.